Hey guys, what's up? It's Phil. Really apologize. The perfect storm just kind of popped up right as I was trying to get this thing live. So if you guys were just waiting, I'm sorry. But finally got on here. Again, it was a perfect storm of problems, kind of just all coming together exactly the same time between no internet and somehow Google decided that today was the day that they wanted me to re-enter my account information. So I had to change my password and things like that right as I was getting to start. And I double checked everything earlier today and somehow wasn't able to log in. But now everything's working fine. So here we are today. So I'm going to stop doing the ranting and I'm just going to get started on this video. So I hope everyone had a really good weekend. Cruz is actually not going to be here for this show. Like I said, from last week moving onward, I'm going to be fully taking over the show right now. Part of the reason for that is I think it's really important for Cruz to go in the direction that he wants to go. So that's where we're at right now. With that being said, there's a lot of things to go over in this particular show. There were a few questions that popped up during the chat last week that I wanted to follow up on. And as you can see in the background, or I should say, where is it over there? This was the article that I was talking about last week. But before we get to that, just some housekeeping things for the show right now. The first thing that we're going to talk about is the travel log. As you can see from the title, I'm actually out in Ecuador already. I arrived last week, so I'm really excited about that. So we're going to be talking about the travel situation, my experience out here and arriving. And I'll tell you right now, it's awesome. Everything is going really well. And as you can see, I'm back at the house in Ecuador, down in Santa Elena. And so we got the travel log, and then we also have Not Financial Advice, and that's what we're going to be talking about, on that side over there with the article from Tyler Durden. So if you guys know, Tyler Durden is a character from Fight Club and happens to be writing articles as well. So that part's pretty cool. With that, we're going to be talking about the overall market stuff, at least from my perspective. Again, it's not financial advice, and it's for entertainment purposes, but use it for what you will, and I hope you get something out of it. And then the next thing is cTheories, so things that kind of popping up, keeping you guys aware of some of the things that has occurred over the past week. Now, keep in mind, I haven't been able to fully get myself settled in. I did a whole lot of setting up during the course of the time that I arrived, which was Thursday, and then up till today, and finally have my desk set up, and it's looking pretty good. It's actually just a plastic table that it's pretty modular because I ended up purchasing several tables just to make it a little easier for myself. But on top of that, today I did add a few other things that I think is going to be useful. Again, continuation of some of the stuff that I talked about last week with Cruz, and trying to help move this channel forward to add more value to the audience. So again, there's a lot of good content I think that we're going to be covering, and I'm looking forward to being able to do that. But the first thing that I do want to go over is, so I left for Ecuador last Thursday, and it was the first time I've taken JetBlue since I first flew out to Ecuador. And I can tell you, I almost didn't get on the plane, and part of the reason for that is because the airlines actually screen everyone first, whether they had the vaccine or had their PCR test, and I actually got screened twice. The first time was actually in Boston at Logan Airport, and there was a little bit of confusion about the date of when I got my PCR test, and it was actually 2 days before, which is on a Tuesday, right after Memorial Day. And that went really quick. I ended up getting the results to it by the following day, which was Wednesday, actually really early in the morning, because the lab that did the test was actually up in Boston. Obviously, that came out negative, so I was able to fly. But the people that were screening my PCR test, or the documentation that I provided, were a little bit confused about the time. I think they assumed that it was actually going to be on. It was a day earlier, but and everything ended up just working out fine in regards to that. So I was able to get down to Florida, and then they did one more screening. And I feel bad for some of the people that were also traveling. There were some people that were going back to Ecuador with their family, so apparently they went out for a vacation out in the U.S. and they were just having a really hard time, getting confirmation from the documentation with a PCR test, along with their ID and things like that. But I believe that they were okay. Everything worked out okay with them. Everything was fine with me once I did the second screening. But the most important part, the part that really kind of just stood out during this whole trip, was when I arrived in Ecuador, where one, they collected the documents for the PCR test or the vaccine, and getting through customs. And that actually just went extremely quick. Like, you wouldn't believe how fast that went through. I mean, there was a person that had a tablet, and he pushes the buttons where everyone, right when they get out of the gate, they grab like this ticket that's kind of like what you get from the deli at the supermarket. So everyone grabs a ticket, and there's a person that works for the airlines that's pressing a button to count, to add, the next person to be able to get their documents submitted to the airlines, or excuse me, to the doctors that are waiting there to review it. And I think one of the great things about being able to screen beforehand is that they're validating that you can travel. Whereas my first time coming back after the pandemic happened, it was very difficult, because they're reviewing a lot of different documentation from people from different countries, a lot of different laboratories that were doing the test. So everyone had different versions of documentation, different languages, things like that. And I think the screening that happened before at the airlines actually just took a lot of that away. And I really think over the course of several months from last year, I want to say the last time when I flew out was back in September, it happened much faster than before. Before it was just a mess, and now it's just like I got through. I literally went over to the area where the doctor was seated at a table, and then you had the airline attendant, the airport attendant that was pushing the button on the tablet, getting people to submit their documents to the doctors. And before, you'd have to wait and the doctors would review the documentation. Whereas this time, the attendant would just push the button, you would submit your paperwork, and then you would just go straight to customs. It was really, it was just absolutely amazing, And I was so happy about just being able to go through that. The customs, I think they've seen my name in the travel logs that I've been in and out of Ecuador quite often. And the good thing is, because May was the inception year that I entered Ecuador before I started getting my visa, I was able to kind of just go in and out. And May is a time frame where everything resets for me. So that gives me the ability to go to Ecuador without a visa coming in. So needless to say, I definitely went through. I was starting from getting off the landing, and then getting past customs, getting past security to check my bags and things like that, is literally maybe 15 minutes, which is incredible. So I was able to see Sophia as I was as I arrived, and she actually didn't arrive until after me, because I called her up. So that's actually a really great segue into how I was able to communicate with Sophia when I arrived. Now, I wanted to show this, and I've mentioned this before during another video, but I didn't really get a chance to show anybody so you'll be able to see it this time. But I have this thing called a Skyroam Solis Lite, as you can see right here. And it's kind of like a hockey puck shaped, maybe about 3/4 of an inch, maybe 3.5 inches in diameter. And this is a wireless hub, 4G hub, that I've been using for internet for my phone. And for those of you who know me and have been listening to the show, I've been using voice over IP to make calls to and from home. And that's one of the ways that people can contact me from when I'm in a different country. So if people call my cell phone, I'm able to get calls while I'm out here in Ecuador or in Peru and things like that. So it's been a very convenient way to be able to keep in touch with somebody, as well as not having to change my cell phone. And it's been very beneficial. But one of the things that I really wanted to talk about with this Skyroam Solis hub, hotspot hub, is that part of the reason why I did this. So when I was traveling back and forth back to the U.S., I would get a pay-as-you-go plan for my cell phone, which is right here, iPhone 6. And it was kind of an inconvenience to be able to do that back and forth. So over the course of that time period and having that first round of experience coming back and forth from the U.S. into a different country, one of the things that I was doing was looking at ways that I could kind of simplify and kind of reduce the cost and utilize things while I'm on the road. And that the thing that led me to was the the Skyroam Solis Lite, which there's another version, but I don't see any reason why you would need it. It has a camera, things like that. I mean, if you already have a cell phone, you wouldn't need the camera and extra memory. This is probably one of the best things I've purchased, especially if you're going to be traveling. And it was something that I encountered as I was traveling, as I was investigating things about people who do the digital nomad lifestyle, and this popped up on numerous occasions. Now, keep in mind, Verizon, AT&T, and other companies actually have their own version of this. And obviously, something like Google Fi has plans where you can use their phone internationally and things like that. But again, I'm not really looking for a plan and things like that. I'm looking for kind of a pay-as-you-go, switch over to different service. And so while I was in the U.S., the first time I purchased this, actually when I came back in February of this year, so not too long ago, and I purchased it right when I came back to the U.S. And what they do is they give you 5 gigs of data for 4G on the 4G network, and that enables you to get this thing started up. But on top of that, they have a $49 a month plan, unlimited for the U.S. So they give you 20 gigs for 4G, and then after you tap out of your 20 gigs of space, it goes to 3G, and it's not conducive to be able to do streaming because you need at least 2,000 kilobits a second, and that in itself is a little bit lower. Like right now, the stream is running at 2,600 kilobits a second for streaming rate, and I'm guessing that if you guys are looking for kind of a higher resolution video feed, you might want to directly connect via Ethernet. So, but the 3G for typical, WhatsApp video calls, regular phone calls, browsing and things like that, totally sufficient for a lot of the things that I do. Actually, on numerous occasions during the day when I'm doing my work, a lot of times I put the bit rate down or the resolution for YouTube videos, because I usually play YouTube in the background so that I can listen to things news, current events, and stuff like that while I'm doing other things on my laptop. And that in itself is actually sufficient for getting a lot of the things that I need to get done. However, like I said, once you tap out of the 4G, especially if you're streaming video, even if it's at a lower resolution, to be honest, it's actually it's not that good. And you definitely don't want to download items with it as well. You want to be connected to a Wi-Fi network. Another great thing about having something like this while you're on the road and being able to travel and connect with people in a different country, as long as that it's supported within that country, is that you get a little bit more security, so you're not having to connect to the public network at the airport or at a cafe or anything like that. This has been a really great way that I can kind of just keep everything self-contained when I'm traveling, or if there is some sensitive information that I want to complete, like completing, maybe looking at some bank statements or whatever it is. To me, it was really great to be able to use this, and I've been very happy. And keep in mind too, this is not sponsored by Skyroam. This was something that I looked up for quite a bit of time, and I know that I've been talking about it a little bit more. I guess you can call it kind of just a little bit of a review. But if you guys are traveling elsewhere, it might make sense to pick up something like this, especially if you're going to be on the road quite often. Getting a wireless hub that can get you connected on the cell services that are available here without actually having to have a service plan in these locations. I've even looked at that, as well as about getting a separate phone with a different SIM card, and then having a phone number, things like that. But that just kind of, I don't know, that just adds a little bit more complexity to being able to travel. So that's all I got to say about that. If you guys have any questions in regards to the Skyroam, this is something, like I said, that I use. I'm so far very happy with it. It's actually quite durable. Maybe I'll do like an actual review video in regards to this, separate from the live streams, just so people get a better idea of it. And like I said, I'm on the road quite a bit, so this gives a great opportunity to explain this a little bit further. But keep in mind, I'm actually not using this now. I'm actually using the the Wi-Fi next door, because the internet's actually, the service that we use out here for Wi-Fi is actually currently down in the neighborhood. So unfortunately, I can't connect to the internet that's here right now. So this is the Skyroam Lite. Again, it's not sponsored. It's just something that I want to talk about. But I'd highly recommend something to this regard. I know that Verizon offers a plan. I think it's like $10 a day or $10 a month. I'm not really sure, but you guys got to look it up. That if you have Verizon and you go overseas, they have like a limited data plan, and you can use your phone. People can call you up, and that's I did that. I was using that before when I was traveling internationally for work. So that's what we got about that. Let's see. So before we get into not financial advice, if you guys have any questions, again, in regards to the traveling, things like that. Another thing I want to add before I forget, before I finish the TraveLog section here, and I'm kind of coming into pretty late on discussing this, but yeah, the situation arriving in Ecuador is great. I know if you guys have been watching the show, one of the things that we encountered, or that I encountered prior to arriving to Ecuador, was that they had a curfew that went until May 20th. That has currently ended. And on top of that, on May 24th, they inaugurated the new president, Lasso, and the whole country is open. I mean, so people that are out there watching this, that's I think one of the things that we want to be able to feel happy about. A place like Ecuador is it's a really great place to visit. There's a lot of fun things to do, and one of the great things too, it's not a very large country, so it gives you the ability to travel to the different spots. And like right now, I'm out here in the Santa Elena province, right near the beach, and Sophia and I are trying to finalize plans to travel somewhere else while she has vacation. And the great thing is, because I have this wireless hub, I'm able to do my work kind of on the road. And keep in mind too that the 4G network on the cell when it connects to the cell towers out here is actually really good, like really good. Had no issues with connecting. Every now and then it might drop off, but it's kind of just a blip on the signal, and you're up and running all over again. So really happy with with a wireless hub. But again, so being able to travel to Ecuador, everything's opened up. The president made it a thing to make sure that just that he wants the country opened up, which is absolutely amazing. And then on top of that, there's there's a lot of other things to consider. I think here there might be a requirement to get vaccinated, at least for the citizens here. But the only thing that you really need to worry about when arriving, at least from my experience, unless I hear anything new as I stay over here, is that you just need your PCR test within 3 days of your flight, or a vaccine card or something like that to validate that you're safe to travel. And again, the airlines are the places that will first screen you, and then they collect the documentation of the PCR test or a copy of your vaccine passport. So make sure that you have a hard copy. They're very paper heavy here. They're not going to take your word for it if you show them your phone, which is something more common in the U.S., at least from my experience seeing other people, traveling. So that's the travel log, guys. I'm really excited. Again, I've been here since Thursday, and really glad to be able to do the live show. I wish Cruz was here, but he's going to be doing some traveling this week. So, I'm happy for him. That's a great thing. I mean, that's part of what he wants to do. But the next portion that we are going to talk about is not financial advice. So finally, we have this Robert Shiller article by Tyler Durden in regards to the home prices and what we see going forward with the housing market. I don't own a house, but for a while ago, back when the market crashed, I was actually looking at houses, but one of the viewers actually wanted to know about what our prediction was with the market, and this was the article that I was mentioning, and I got it from this guy right here. So I'm not going to take credit. And believe it or not, one of my buddies actually turned me on to Zero Hedge, is the name of this webzine, and one of my buddies actually turned me on to this webzine, and I reference it every now and then because there's some good piece of reading here that you guys should consider if you want to get into the investing world or anything like that, or some intelligent commentary in regards to it's right on this side, in regards to what's going on in the market. But I got this article specifically from this guy right here, the Economic Ninja. And this was actually the video that I watched a few weeks ago in regards to that. So I'm referencing this article here, and I'm not going to go over this specific article. The video is on the opposite side, so I have to point to the other side. I'll just have to get used to it for now. But basically, I mean, the market's really hot right now, and if you kind of just think of it like the stock market, right? There's a very limited inventory, as a lot of you must know, of houses that are available and on the market today. And what this is talking about is basically, without going into heavy detail, is that eventually the housing market is just going to come crashing down, whether it's going to be kind of gradually or over, in the next 6 or 7 months or so. So for me particularly, I like to put a date. It doesn't have to be very specific in regards to when, but I like to give myself some timetables and put this as part of the variables that I need to help myself come up with strategies that deal with these types of issues. Because if the housing market goes down, it's obviously going to affect other markets moving forward. And I'm going to skip over actually to another set of data to kind of further, I guess maybe add a little bit more knowledge base in regards to the way I would look at something like this. right? And I did review it. Full disclosure, I did review some of this today, but not fully because again, I'm still kind of in that process of getting things squared away. But any given time, that when you guys are watching, if you have any questions or anything like that, just please let me know. Just write something down on the chat, and I'll be glad to see if I can answer it, or at least I'll do my best to answer it. But yeah, I mean, right now the market's really hot. There's not many houses that are available. Supplies, the cost of supplies are really high, at least at the U.S. I didn't get a chance to go to the store and see what the lumber prices are over here. There's actually a lumber store over here within a few blocks away that I could actually just go and walk to, but I haven't had a chance. They're not open on the weekends. And today I was just really kind of finishing up any of the things that I couldn't do over the weekend because obviously, I'm going to spend a little bit of time with Sophia while we're here. And then on top of that, strangely enough, I mean, we had to do a lot of kind of house related things, laundry, fix up a few things that, I didn't see since I wasn't here for a couple months. So I'm going to skip over to the Bank of America investor website. And like I mentioned before, this is something that I would do to see where banks are at, right? Because this is where a lot of people are getting the loans. And I just randomly picked Bank of America as a resource. Out full disclosure too, I was an investor. I bought them a long time ago and sold them around $32 or something like that. But and I know they're somewhere in the 40 something dollars, so they're moving up as far as, oh, there it is, $43 price range. So what I want to do is really kind of cut through a little bit of the first quarter results, and always kind of keep in mind too, right? Like this is backwards looking, as you can see right there. It's April 15th, so it's past the due date. But last video I mentioned that a good way to kind of see what's going on is actually just to review the quarterly reports of some of the presentations that the banks or the institutions are putting out there, so that we can see what's occurring, at least from their business perspective, right? This is all public information that you guys can parse through, but we're gonna cut through a little bit of the information. Let's see, and global banking loans and leases and trends. So one of the interesting things, as you look at this, is that loans and lending in the world has dropped. So take that information for what it is, right? Interpret it for what it is. But it looks like it might look like a lot of people might be keeping money close to their vest, right? Holding off on spending. So if you were one of the recipients of some of the stimulus check, maybe you're using your money or saving your money for other things, and you're not really going out there taking on any loans, despite the interest rates being low right now. So again, not unusual. Everything looks very solid, and at least for Bank of America, as you can see here, right, in the first quarter over the previous quarter, they were up quite a bit with their revenue. So again, not so bad, even their net income. So despite the pandemic happening, their income statement is actually showing to be very strong, right? So this is good news, and I think this might be part of the reason why the share price itself has also reflected that. So they're actually selling at a premium. And we're gonna have to go to the balance sheet here. So again, we have total assets over last year, loans and leases. So debt security. So that increased, and then let me see total deposits. Shareholder. So to be honest, it hasn't changed all that much, and on based on this quarter's per share data, their book value is $29. So that could have changed over the course of the quarter. I don't know. I haven't kept up with Bank of America, to be honest. But at least right now, if you were to compare it to the first quarter leading up to today, that they're selling at a premium. Their share price is selling at a premium by at least $14 or so. So not completely out of range, but it's a stock market, right? We always have to take into consideration that the price of a stock is not, a lot of times, does not reflect the fundamentals itself, but really what someone's willing to buy for that stock itself. So in this case, the stock price based on the book value here is above what the book value is. So again, take it for what it is. And so this is the area that I actually wanted to pay attention to a lot more in regards to the total loans. And again, this is more of an interpretation about what to anticipate. I'm not going to make any predictions or anything like that. It's really just trying to understand what people are doing out there. If you're a homeowner, have you guys considered buying a new house? Has a lot of things kind of shifted with your daily habits, things like that? It's one of those, what are the common trends and what is the data showing you, and then also what the data is not showing you. And as you can see, the amount of residential mortgages have actually gone down over the quarters, which for whatever reason, take it for what it is. It's something to take, it's something to interpret, so you have to come up with ideas about why that sort of trend is happening and is it continuing. So again, the changes themselves aren't so significant other than the amount for the mortgages and stuff like that have decreased. And so if this was any indication, right, of total loans and leases decreasing, and we're looking at deposits, obviously these are for, okay, so we got consumer banking, and we can see that the trend of so money market savings, interest. So we're just going to focus on this, okay? If you look at what's going on here, you guys can't see that going on over here for consumer banking over the course of first quarter of 2020 and then first quarter of 2021, we can see that money markets, interest checking account, non-interest bearing have increased quite dramatically. So that would have maybe some correlation between what's going on here as far as total loans and leases. Again, you have to parse out this type of information for yourself, but I look at that as like, oh, there might be some correlation between something like that in regards to what's happening. So it looks like there's quite a bit of liquidity from the number of deposits or consumer banking deposits, and a lot of people are keeping that money close to the vest, right? Maybe waiting for that big purchase. I know several friends out there are actually looking to buy a house in the near future, and if the interest rates start to increase, I think we might definitely start seeing a decline of houses being purchased, and then we'll start seeing prices of houses drop, as well as starting to see more houses go out into the market. Another aspect too that I want to take consideration too is there is the protection right now for people that are renting, and then also the protection for mortgages. So I think once those things expire, we're going to start seeing those dominoes fall in place. But until then, I think really a very strong aspect that we have to consider. Again, I'm going to interpret this information that a lot of people are doing some really smart things with their money, as far as putting it in the sideline, watching the charade that's going on with the politics and economics happening. I think it's a really good thing. So that gives me confidence in a lot of people, that a lot more people are actually paying attention to what's going on. And like I said, if you people were one of the recipients of the stimulus checks, you guys do what you got to do with your money. It's your money and your responsibility. But if you guys are saving, if you guys are looking for a rainy day fund, this is actually a really good thing. So more power to everyone else. Net interest income. So this is basically, the financial vehicles that the banks have, where they generate income from interest. I might be saying that incorrect. I might not be saying that exactly the definition, but that's the way I have it, mapped out in my head. And yields have dropped. So total interest and expenses, again, not so much change there. So these net charge-offs and asset quality is really so think of it like net 30 days, right? So these net charge-offs, what the banks do, at least from my understanding, is they use this. So they put on the books, right? So if someone loans you, and this is actually on Investopedia.com, you take that. If you borrow $100,000 and your first payment is due, we'll just put January, they're going to mark down that they're down by if $2,000 is due on that January. The next thing is the provision of credit loss. Again, I might not be explaining this that well, but the thing that I do want to point out here is that fourth quarter of 2020, they're closing their books for the year for whatever reason, right? They don't want to show too much money before the year closes. So anything on the books they take out, and then a loss at the beginning of the year. So it looks like maybe, I don't really think that this trend right here is actually something that has to be worried about. And there is like a where is it? There is a section where they talk about defaults. And all right, well, we're running a little bit running out of time here, so I'm going to let you guys look at this further. But based on what I'm seeing here, as far as what at least Bank of America is showing, is that a lot more people are depositing, right? Whether it's interest bearing, non-interest bearing, things like that. And as you can see, people are actually putting money into financial vehicles to either to generate some sort of income or just kind of keeping it stashed away. So again, a lot of people might not be putting their aces out in the open right now. That's a good thing. Like I said, having some extra cash in the background just to wait off what's going on here with the economy, especially in the U.S. With lumber prices and things like that just going bonkers. And I actually went to McDonald's with my father. I went to McDonald's. Okay, guys. I went to McDonald's with my father, and I bought a bunch of random stuff. So I bought a double cheeseburger, a 20-piece nugget, and the dollar menu that they had, and I don't know how long this has been going on for. It changed. It went from, now it's the dollar menu 1, 2, 3, right? So the double cheeseburger that used to be $1 maybe several years ago. Actually, I don't remember because I don't go to McDonald's that often. But it's now $2. They didn't reduce the size, but they definitely increased the price. And another thing that I actually noticed was that the nuggets themselves, they're kind of in the same parity now as Burger King and Wendy's, where it's more bread. And I noticed that it was actually a lot thinner, and kind of the width of it too was actually shorter, and it was much easier to fit in, in the sauce packet. So something to keep in mind. So if they took off a few grams, they're saving a little bit of money, but they're maintaining the price. And the only thing that people probably won't notice as much is that the size of the food actually decreased. And that's kind of, for me, a good indication of the actual inflation going up in food, right? Like just observing that. And if you happen to get a chance to to go to McDonald's, if you so daring. I still like McDonald's. I like 20-piece nugget, but I don't think it has the same quality as it was before. I think they changed the ingredients around, so it tastes more bread-like than it does food-wise. I don't think it's as good. They got rid of the dark meat part of it, and I think that was a bad move because the dark meat flavor, I think, made it taste better, but that's just my personal opinion. So going back to Bank of America here again, it's something that you guys can look up yourself. This is public information, and I think it's going to be valuable just to, keep your finger on that pulse just to see what's going on with the banks, because, like I said, they're the ones holding your money. So if you guys are depositing money, and as it shows here, data-wise, at least you guys get to see what other people are doing, at least on a larger scale, just by looking at the charts and things like that. I'm not going to pay attention to this. This is monthly average users for digital usage and so on and so forth. And I think this is around the globe. It's, again, kind of the same sort of trend. And it's going pretty well. So at least in the intermediate term, and I'll get the chance to, if you guys want, we can look at the next quarterly that's out, and we can parse that out a little bit more. But something that, like I said, if you guys want a little bit more view of what's going on, at least on the bank's perspective, you guys can have that opportunity to kind of just interpret some of that information and start planning for whatever happens in the near future or the future that is projected out. Because, like I said, something like McDonald's on an observation level, whether it's the gas prices and things like that, it's, that's a really good way just to look at something and go, oh, you know what, the inflation is here, and we might not recognize it right away because when we go through our normal routines, are we looking at the number of ounces on a package? Are we noticing a change in flavor in the food and stuff like that? And again, any of these places that do the heavily engineered food like McDonald's and things like that, they're really gonna cut down at a very granular level their cost, so that they're still able to stay in business and stay profitable along the way. On top of them increasing their wages as well. So that in itself was kind of a interesting turnout with what's going on right now with McDonald's, at least looking for workers. So the next thing I want to talk about is, now I mentioned before, we have the expense sheet that was created. And actually today, I don't know, it took me like 5 minutes. I made some of those updates that I was talking about. And what I wanted to do actually was not to go over how this thing works, and you guys can download it. The the link to actually this where this spreadsheet is located is actually in the description. If it's not, I'll put it in there. But you guys can download it. I would recommend making a copy with Google Sheets so that it's in your Google Drive folder, and then you can do some fun stuff with it as well. But a quick overview of what I did here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you guys what I just did. So I'm going to go to File and then go see version history. And as you can see right now, there's actually two versions here, but I just named the V1, V2. So if you ever wanted to roll back an older version, if you make your copy, actually, you know what? I don't know. I don't know if you can actually, if you make a copy of it, and then if you'll get the first version of how this was, the first inception of this, which was on May 31st. I don't know. But you can always, at least for my original version here, that you can actually roll back the versions. And all I really did, guys, is very simple. I changed the date format, right, so that it was kind of equal throughout. Because when you're doing the filtering with spreadsheets and things like that, it might not read if it's at a different format. So what I applied was a macro, and this is, I guess, an introduction to like how Google Sheets works. And if you are documenting your own expenses to help you manage your finances, I would recommend taking it off of Google Sheets and saving it as like an Excel sheet or a open office document. But anyway, I used a macro. Like I said, this literally took about 5 minutes. Created a macro to format the date, this whole column here, and just kind of made it equal throughout. And then on top of that, and like I said, if you guys want, I can actually go over how to use this expense sheet and things like that. But obviously, if you have a Google Google account, you're more than welcome to alter this spreadsheet and things like that. But on another note, one of the great things about the Google Sheets here, and this is, I talked earlier about why I didn't do the code and stuff in the background, was because I wanted people to be able to edit this the way they wanted to, but I also wanted people to see the code that goes into or the functions that go into making the spreadsheet. And it took me a few hours to originally build it a long time ago, back in 2017. And the good, or actually might have been even before that. But in Google Sheets, and like I said, it's Google. I use Google Sheets a lot. But one of the great things that you can use Google Sheets for is to automate some of these processes without using up the resources to run these functions. And you can run an event-based. So the macros that you find here in tools that I actually saved. So as you can see, I have a date column macro, and then I also have a dates macro. And essentially, just think of it like a packaged set of code that works exactly the same through all of the areas that you want it to work on. So rather than manually, editing all these things, I actually just put the macro, highlighted that column, and then it enables it throughout. So if I, put a date here, 5/5/2021, it'll format it exactly to what the rest of them are, other than the text size and things like that. But again, not something that you guys need to really worry about. So what does that code look like? Well, very simple. There's two functions, only in the current doc, obviously. So this is not an executable. This is just a comment. Comments don't execute in code. And this is a former JavaScript It's a Google app script, so it's their version of JavaScript. All the standard V8, if you guys are familiar with V8 arrow functions and things like that, you're going to be able to do a lot of the JavaScript stuff. But this is actually, I'm going to touch, if you guys want me to touch base a little bit closer to any of these things, this is super basic. Like, this is as basic as it gets. Very easy. But again, so if you guys decide that you want to work on your spreadsheets, your expense sheet, on Google Drive, it's all up to you. Me personally, as far as safety goes and things like that, because it's out on the web, it's on the cloud, I'd recommend not doing that, but you're more than welcome to do so. And again, this is just, if you guys are interested, you guys can actually just pause the video and copy this code here, and this will enable you to execute this code. Now, you can either do it from here, run, and it executed, as you can see, the debug D7 here, and it's not gonna change anything here, but you can choose which one. So whenever you create a new function, it'll show up, and you want to make sure that you pick the correct function. All right. So that's that. So hopefully, like I said, if you guys decide to grab this, like I said, it's free. It's open source. I think the month to month and the totals are the more kind of intensive. Yeah, it's a very intensive function there, and it's really just it's not as hard as it looks. It looks like it's super messy, but it's not. So again, these functions will work with LibreOffice, which is what I use locally on my laptop, but also these functions have the same syntax as what you would find in Excel. So if you have Excel and you want to be able to use these functions, they'll work. The only thing I can tell you that if you do use this on these other applications like LibreOffice, which I use, or Microsoft Excel, the problem that you might run into is actually some of the formatting issues, but nothing in itself that you should worry about. When I say formatting, I mean like the cell sizes, the tables might be a little bit smaller and things like that, but nothing to get too worried about. And the last thing that I wanted to go over, because there was a few developments or a few pieces of news that came out today that I think we should draw some attention to, that people thought I was crazy for saying it last year, but what about those Fauci emails that came out, guys, right? About hydroxychloroquine, am I saying that right? That is an effective treatment for the beer bug. And then on top of that, I'm still asking myself this question. Why is there a heavy incentive to get the hokey pokey? Why is there a heavy incentive for it? Now, keep in mind, if everyone out there, right, is obviously everyone is keeping aware about what's going on in the world. So a big thing right now is cryptocurrency. I know a few of you might be out there playing around with cryptocurrency, and you've probably come across Coinbase. Coinbase offers an incentive right now to trade, to buy and sell Dogecoin, right? Because it was just recently added to their wallet, not to their exchange. Don't get those mixed up. There's Coinbase, and then there's Coinbase Pro. Coinbase is their wallet. That's kind of a simplified, not too much data and things like that. Their simplified version of their Pro. Their Pro is the one where you can do, you can check charting and things like that. But with their wallet, with their recent addition of Dogecoin, they're offering an incentive, which I actually signed up for myself, that if you have to have certain amount of Dogecoin. You have to have purchased it within a certain date period. I think the 10th of June is the last date that you can purchase Dogecoin on the wallet. Now, they're offering an incentive to win a pretty substantial amount of money, and they have like different ranges. I tell the truth, I forgot what it is. You might want to look it up. And the reason why I bring that up, because we're in the C theory portion of the program right now. Why are they incentivizing people to buy Dogecoin? They also have an incentive to learn about the different stable coins and cryptocurrencies with their wallet. So I've done them. I've made $3. Learning about Polygon and Bitcoin and all the other and some of the other digital coins out there. But you got to ask yourself, okay? Yes, they're a business. They're a for-profit organization, right? And it's kind of like the way Google has everyone on their platforms. I use Google. It's in the background. You see it right there, right? And you're incentivized to use it, and it's free, right? They get you on their platform. So why is that same model being used for the hokey pokey? Despite now all this information that I was talking about last year about the lab out in China and the possibility that the involvement of the U.S. in there, and again, this information is designed to be more aware, but to make better decisions, right? Because we can be better investors and things like that if we're aware of what's going on. But we have to ask ourselves, why? And I'm still kind of just curious of the same business models that a lot of these big companies are using, like the Coinbase, the Facebooks, the Googles, the Amazons, or whatever else, that they offer a lot of incentives to get on their platform. So is this hokey pokey the dance of a different platform in a different form? I don't know. But it's a question that I'm going to continue to ask myself. And I think it's a great question that I encourage other people to ask themselves. And if you did take the hokey pokey, I mean, it is what it is. You made your decision for yourself. That's up to you. That's up for you and your family. Which brings me to another point, and I think this is a great way to end the show. Why is it that kids without parental consent can get the hokey pokey? Why can they do the hokey pokey dance without the parents? I'm wondering a few things, and that circulates a lot of different ideas. Maybe the intentions are good. I don't know. But we also have to keep in mind what's this all about, and that's really, I don't know. Maybe you people out there can tell me or inform me about, maybe I'm acting weird. But I do know that I just feel like we're in a bizarre world, and I've mentioned this to a lot of different people. And but I think this is a great way to end the show. Again, a lot of the information is on the website. Like I said, I can't track, who downloads the expense sheet. I hope the information earlier, as I continue to do this more often, I'm going to do my best to improve the delivery of a lot of this content. And this is the direction, like I said, that we're going to be going with this channel. We're going to be talking about travel logs. We're going to be talking about not financial advice, and we're going to talk about seed theories, and they all kind of just come together. And this is the stuff that I do like talking about, and something that I do talk about quite often. So thank you guys very much. I hope everyone's safe. Everyone's happy. Nobody's nobody's in bad luck and things like that, and maybe being able to watch